Hey folks, BlackCross here. Welcome back to another Cross Gaming video podcast, or as I like to call it, Cross Gaming VPC. So, I have a lot of updates as well as a lot of news to talk about. So let's go ahead and get into the discussion of these recent updates. For starters, Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition comes out officially next month, which is literally within the next couple of weeks. And upon that, new things have been released. For example, there is an update patch for Final Fantasy 15 Comrades. This one actually features a few things, one of them being a new costume from Half-Life, which I'm not going to cross it, but at the same time I also thought to myself, okay, you're just crossing the line now. You're just drop that. Drop that now. I can't believe that they went that far. I understand the noodle cup and everything like that, because that's the Japanese aesthetics and stuff, but to put in Half-Life just for the sake of it being Half-Life, that's sickening to me. Just get rid of that. Just get rid of that, okay? But that's just one bit of update. A new update is that they've updated the main story of 15. For example, what was the Royal Edition coming out, being that they extended the Ruins of Insomnia to where you can actually just fully explore it. There's a deeper story going on inside of it as well. And this one more or less involves some of the glaives. So it would make sense that they would go ahead and update Comrades for the sake of that part. So within the update trailer that they announced, basically in Comrades you go back into Insomnia in order to deal with some of the issues that Noctis will deal later on. For example, you fight against Infront, which that one's going to be interesting. Will I showcase that on my channel? It depends on how non-busy I get. Like, if for some reason I feel like, you know what, let's show this little update real quickly for Final Fantasy 15 Comrades, then yeah, I will. But admittedly, while 15 Comrades is pretty good, I just don't care much for that part. I mean, I love how they basically had it fixed up and everything, and I do appreciate it. But in terms of like how it's set up and stuff, I don't really care much for it. I mean, it works. It works. But in terms of like deeper story, there's not really a deeper story going on other than the fact that one of the glaives is trying to bring Noctis back out. In fact, technically it's supposed to take a span of 10 years. It didn't feel like that. If nothing else, it felt like it was like maybe 2 years that they had put into it. So I imagine this to be a very elongating section, which it didn't. It just shortened it a lot. So I'm not sure where the time gap goes from here. Like, does it take place like 5 years after? In which case, there is a lot of stuff that they left out or they change overall. Like, it's hard for me to explain it for those who haven't even played 15 yet, but there was a lot of stuff that they kind of mixed up on. But that's just me. But at any rate, though, other than that update, there is some information that's been given to us, and I'll be sure to link in the description for you, but it's called DengekkiOnline.com. They basically talked it to the director, which I will end up butchering the name, to which I apologize. I'm going to try to pronounce his name. I am not good at pronouncing any names, so I hope you apologize. From Mr. Tabata, I believe, which is basically the main director of Final Fantasy 15, which originally it was Tetsuki Nomura, but it got switched for Tabata because Nomura had other projects that he needed to finish up as well, one of them being Kingdom Hearts 3, obviously. So Tabata took over the project for 15, and it basically was all translated. Well, I wouldn't say it was translated, but thankfully for Google Chrome, it translated it for me. So I say you should be able to get it translated. If not, hopefully someone's translated the whole article. I don't know. But the point is that along the sentence, it says here on the Twitter page, it says here, originally Final Fantasy 15 was supposed to have 3 episodes that will come in 2018, starting with episode Auden. That plan has changed to 4 DLC episodes and will take up until 2019 to wrap it all up. So, I know in my previous video when it comes to Final Fantasy 15, I was thinking that the Royal Edition was the final edition. I was wrong, which I didn't think... I mean, here's the thing. I figured that if they released something this big, it was probably going to be the final edition of Final Fantasy 15. Which means the full game is completely released, there's no more updates or anything like that. Turns out there are more updates to be released as of this year, and then a little bit on towards next year. One of them, obviously, is the individual update, the individual episode DLC, which apparently I'm guessing this is the last patch of DLC that we're going to be receiving. One of them being episode Auden. Now, I was under the assumption that there was going to be only like 3 episodes after the original 3, in which case I knew of Auden. There are some people saying that Luna Freya is a possible candidate, and from the way it sounds like they are using Luna Freya as to like what all she can do and what they're gonna have her do. I have no idea. Like I honestly couldn't tell you what they plan to do with, and it's one of those things where it's like I thought to myself, it's like episode Luna Freya sounds interesting, but at the same time, would it work? And only Square Enix knows, Mr. Tabata for that matter even, they only know how far they can go. And I have no doubt in my mind, if they didn't think they could do anything with her in terms of gameplay mechanic, they wouldn't do it. But apparently, they found some form of way to make it work. So therefore, they were like, okay, you know what? Let's do this. Let's make this into a thing. So, I guess, depending on how things work, depends on how it overall... Like, I can see episode Auden working out really well, because he is the main villain, he's the main antagonist, and then you have Luna Freya, which basically, she was trying to bring the ring back to Noctis, and everything, and she is technically an oracle. So in other words, she sees things that most people can't see, and she feels she has a duty to uphold for her being an oracle. But not only that, as a friend of Noctis. But anyway, so that's a possibility. But there are 2 more episodes after those. Like Luna Freya isn't confirmed yet, but Auden is. But there are 4 DLC episodes total, so it's hard to say what the other 2 are, because after reading the article, there's a possibility that they are thinking about using the individual godlike beings, like Titan, for example, or even, I'm just throwing this out there, Infant, for that matter. Because, spoiler alert for those who don't know, at the end of Final Fantasy 15, towards the end, before you fight against Auden, you fight against Infant, the Inferno. Supposedly, Infant went against the Order of the Gods for his own reasons, which, from the way it sounds like he had fallen in love with Shiva, which, that's no surprise on that story concept, but he became vengeful of his right, I believe. It's hard for me to remember the whole concept because of all the different updates, and I've only played 15 once, and I decided to myself I was only going to replay it after they release all the updates. So, yeah, that's a thing that I'm going to have to change now, because now I'm going to have to go back and play through 15 because of the new update that's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But we'll see how that goes. There could be a possibility they might do an episode Infant. You know, there is that chance. And if that's the case, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that one. And I'm just wondering, and I sincerely doubt that this is going to be the case, but I'm wondering if perhaps maybe there might be a way that they could make the game to where you can summon Bahamut and inferent after you beat the main story campaign. Like, for example, you go into the game again, start from chapter 1, because there is a chapter selection screen, and at a random chance you could summon Bahamut and Inferent. I personally would like to see that, but for story purposes, I doubt that's ever going to happen, but only time will tell. The point is that instead of the initial 3 DLC episodes, there are going to be 4 leading up to 2019, and according to what it's saying, this is the last batch of DLC episodes. So in other words, by 2019, Final Fantasy 15, in terms of probably updates as well as DLC, will be officially finished. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. In another news update, Totaku Collection. For those that don't know, Totaku Collection had recently released information about how they were making, according to what everyone's saying, amiibo-esque figures for Sony. These characters involve Hunter from Bloodborne, Crash Bandicoot, Sackboy from Little Big Planet, Parappa the Rapper, Kratos from the new God of War game that's coming out this year, and a few others. But there is a new update that has been recently given to us, a new update that GameStop has. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, GameStop? What? Why are you going into GameStop? Let me explain. They normally would never showcase something unless they officially have it. They actually have images that I can show you. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer right here. of way I will eventually get the hunter figure in some shape or form. I don't know how, but I will eventually. I would like to get him. In another bit of information, for some reason, Fadifi, if you don't know who he is, Fadifi is basically a Dark Souls community guy. Basically, he makes in-depth videos of each individual character or theory, game theories, of Dark Souls. So it is interesting to see him continue to talk about Dark Souls, even though Dark Souls is pretty much done for the time being, and we probably won't see a new Dark Souls game for quite some time. But with the recent announcement of Dark Souls Remaster being released for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, as well as for the Nintendo Switch, which is still the mind-blowing part, but at the same time, I find that pretty awesome. He's been very... What's the word I'm looking for? He's been very half... I don't want to call him stupid. Okay, I'm not one to call him stupid. But I want to say that he's been a bit arrogant in terms of like how this remaster should be brought out. It's a remaster for a reason. It's a remaster. It is not a remake. It is not a rebuild. It is just a remaster, meaning it's the original game but with bumped up graphics. It's now going to be able to be pushed to 60 frames per second. For those that are using it for Pro, it is up to 4K resolution. So naturally, it's just going to be a prettier picture with some improved gameplay mechanics. And this has been proven by From Software, saying that there are going to be some improved mechanics that was considered to be buggy at the time of its original release. And they said that those should hopefully be fixed by the time this game gets released. So hopefully, all of the bugs that we've had in the past will be fixed. One of them, I'm hoping, is the journey to Blighttown. Because in that game alone, frame rate drops drastically bad. Like, we're talking about utter shit bad. So, it's going to be interesting to go through Blighttown just to see if the 60 frames helped it or not. Worst case scenario, it manages to keep it at 30, so that's not too bad, I think. If they can keep Blighttown from dropping anywhere below 30, I think this is considered to be an improvement. But at the same time, that's going to be interesting to see. But at any rate, though, Fadifi has been talking about Dark Souls Remastered for quite a bit, and one of the complaints that he's had was that the gameplay mechanic was the same as it was originally. To which I looked at it and I was like, well, it's a remaster. Therefore, there's no reason for it to just be what it is. There's no reason to change the gameplay mechanics, because by changing the gameplay mechanic, that means it is going to be a remake, not a remaster. It's been upgraded to a remake. And to which he was like, well, Dark Souls 3 is better because of the gameplay mechanics. I don't deny that. I don't deny that Dark Souls 3 gameplay mechanics has improved compared to Dark Souls 1. But you have to be in the realm of thinking that, hey, this is after all a remaster, which means it's going to be the same as it was originally, just updated details. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, honestly, he's been kind of arrogant the way he's been acting. He's been very arrogant of the whole ideal of the remastered, and it just, I felt like he's not thinking realistically. He's thinking of like, hey, here's something that they can technically do because they have the power. No, you have to be realistic about the ideal. By trying to go over the margin, that would take longer, much less it might take even a good 3 years to do something like that. If you wanted to have the gameplay mechanic of Dark Souls 3 into Dark Souls 1, you would have to reformat the game entirely. That means you would have to take that same game and somehow put it onto the new engine that is Dark Souls 3. So, in other words, it's not going to work. That would take too long, And From Software obviously believes that they wanted to go ahead and release Dark Souls onto the new platform, considering the fact that Scholar of the First Sin, as well as Dark Souls 3, both games are on PS4. So it makes sense to go ahead and put Dark Souls 1 onto PS4 as well. Although to see a re-release for the PC, that surprised me. I was surprised to see that being re-released for PC, because PC owners can tell you that they have modded the game to where they can push it up to 60, and sometimes even beyond. I've heard that some people can push it up to 120. That's a little bit excessive. In fact, in my personal opinion, I think that's overkill. Like, I'm not kidding. I love how 60 frame looks. It looks beautiful, it looks awesome, it makes the game a lot more funner, but for 120, how the fuck do you explain 120 resolution? How do you explain 120 frame rate? How do you explain that? It's double 60 frames. That's all you can do. You can't really go out and explain how much more vivid 120 is. Like, as soon as I found that out, I was like, how do you explain that? Like, how do you explain that? Even 4K to me is unexplainable. I look at it and it looks the same. So what's the difference between 1080 to 4K? What's the difference? And I'm going to have a lot of people tell me, oh, there's a difference. I don't see it. To me, it's a waste of money. To me, it's a waste of time. If I even told some of my family members, if you want a 4K TV, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you, anything that says it supports 4K, you have to have a 4K TV. And they go, oh, so it doesn't work with my TV. Correct. You're going to see it at the highest quality that the TV can put out. That doesn't mean you're going to see the next resolution. And I told them, there's no major difference between the 4K and the 1080. You might as well just stick with the regular TV standards that you've got right now. If you're wanting a bigger screen, that's fine. But I don't see 4K being used implementedly forceful. In my personal opinion, I think in terms of quality television that we've got right now, we don't need to push any more boundaries. If nothing else, we need to make better TVs, but no one's going to listen to me. No one's going to listen to the everyday man. Instead, they're going to push it up to 100,000K! Sorry, I got a little aggravated on that one. I do apologize. But the point is, the higher resolution doesn't matter. The point is that Dark Souls Remastered, Fadifi is being overestimate about the whole thing of what he wants. And I'm thinking to myself, is like, if there was anything that I would want, which there's only like one thing that I would want, and that is to have the ability to rearrange items from their placement, because that is technically a mod within Dark Souls. Dark Souls 1, and I believe Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, someone has modded it to where they can do it, is an item randomizer run. So in other words, item placements that was in the original game gets rearranged overall. Like, for example, the first item that you get when you exit out of the cell usually is set to where whatever character you have. Like, for example, if you have the Deprived, you get the club and the wood plank shield. If you get a knight, you get the shield and the sword. If you're a sorcerer, you get the catalyst as well as the dagger. So, depending on the situation, depends on the item that is showed up. But with the item randomizer, it changes it. So in other words, you may be a pyromancy, but when you go into that area, you're going to probably get like a claymore or something. In other words, you're going to be getting something completely different than you normally would get on a normal playthrough. And that makes the game a little bit more interesting. It makes you want to explore the entire area again to see what items you're going to get. And this makes sense. This would, to me, if I wanted something from Dark Souls Remaster, it would be an item randomizer run. And it would be optional, you know, you could turn that feature on or off, but that would be up to the creators themselves, you know, to have that feature on anyway. But I doubt that it's going to be in there. I doubt they're going to do anything different. It's just going to be the same game with some updated graphics as well as some updated mechanics that they have done during the PC and PlayStation 3, and even after its initial release. So it's going to be interesting to see what all has been fixed and what all has been improved after the 60 frame rate. So, with the main updates of everything out of the way, we can go ahead and move on to some other updates, some potential videos that may either be made or may be done differently. For starters, by the release of this video, I'm recording it on the 22nd, but it will be released on the 25th. Delmar has announced on his channel that me and him are going to be working on a video podcast series together. And I originally brought it up to him because, honestly, I've thought about doing this myself, having a co-partner doing a video podcast as well. The only difference is that I wanted to do with TJ, my best friend. But his life is kind of still in the loom of like having to work and everything like that. And he owns a home. He is married. And it's hard to match up our schedules on the same day. And I don't blame him at all. I do not blame any of it. That's life. It makes sense. It happens to the best of us. It happens to everybody. But I thought to myself, it's like, if I can't do it with TJ, there's only one other person that I would do a video podcast with, and that would be with Delmar, because him and I share the same mind wavelength. And most people are like, well, that makes sense, you're brothers. Yes, that is true. But we both also have a different, what's the word I'm looking for? We have a difference of what we like. So in other words, we have more variety to deliver. For example, Delmar loves Nintendo stuff. I love Sony stuff. I'm sure we'll try to introduce some Microsoft stuff in the process as well, but that all depends. But we are going to try to do the video podcast a little bit. We're going to try to do that. As to like when it will be released, I would like to try to do that within the first week of March, but who's to say how often we'll get this made, and who's to say how we're going to do it, because originally I wanted to release these podcast video on both channels. For example, one video gets released on Delmar's channel, the other one gets released on my channel, and then back and forth. However, though, I found this out technically from a different YouTube user. You can technically have a playlist made, and if you're collaborating with another YouTuber, you can save a playlist and have it be for both channels. For example, as me and Daniel are releasing the video podcast, one being on his channel and one on mine, we're both going to have a playlist made to where you can view both sides of the podcast video on a single playlist. So in other words, you don't have to look for the video podcast playlists and be like, let's say for example, Delmar uploads a video podcast video, but then he doesn't release the other one because I released it on my channel. That does not mean that you're going to be restricted from ever seeing it and you're having to migrate to my channel. No, you can actually watch that playlist on Delmar's channel whenever you want, because he'll have the playlist set up to where it'll have both the videos that we uploaded on his channel and the videos we've uploaded onto my channel. And the same thing is going to be the same whenever we do it on my channel. So in other words, this series is going to be on both channels, and you'll be able to view it at any time. Now, of course, Delmar has talked about it and everything like that. And, you know, if you have any questions, which, like I said, if you have any questions at all, you're more than welcome to ask them. But now that Delmar has officially got it fixed up, I'll be sure to link the video in the description box for you, to where you can check out that video, because he's basically set up an email account to where if you have any questions at all, you are more than welcome to submit them to him. If you have a question regarding Delmar, you can go ahead and ask him. If you have a question regarding me, you can do that. Or if you have a question for both of us, we can both answer the question. As to what we're going to be talking about, I think we're going to be talking about anything involving like games and media and stuff, it depends. We're still in the realm of like experimenting, so depending on how interest we get on certain subjects depends on the variety that we're going to deliver. Like, it's not all going to be just video games. It's going to be a variation of other stuff. So it's a matter of, well, we'll just have to wait and see where we're at once we get started, you know. If we ever get to a point where it's like, hey, let's do this, or let's do this, then we will. So, that being said, I like to talk about a little bit of some personal stuff. One of them being regarding like the Let's Plays and stuff like that. You probably noticed that, for those of you who have been watching on Twitch or something like that, I'm going to be taking a break for a couple of days until this coming up Tuesday. And that's because of the fact that I am towards the end of Final Fantasy II. I believe I am at the end of Final Fantasy II. I have not entered in the final dungeon yet, but that's because I know for a fact the final dungeon is going to be a long one. So it's going to take more than an hour just to beat that part. So I figured, you know what, let's hold off on Final Fantasy II. There are still some other video projects I still need to work on right now. So let's just go ahead and take a break, grind Final Fantasy II characters as much as I can before Tuesday comes up, and then Tuesday night it's going to be the big stream for the end of Final Fantasy II, to where I go straight through the dungeon, all the way through, and just beat it. You know, just finally go through it and beat that dungeon and beat Final Fantasy II. I will probably do a deep dive into gaming discussion video regarding Final Fantasy 1 and 2, or aka Final Fantasy Origins. But I am going to say this much. I've actually enjoyed the starting realm of Final Fantasy. Like, I was actually surprised as to how much I've enjoyed it. My only complaint is that I wished I was playing the original Final Fantasy 3, but at the same time, I understand that that's not available to my access. So, what I have right now is good enough. I've already done all the tests that I need. It's going to be perfect for whenever we start Final Fantasy 3. I know there's a lot of you who are excited for me to play Final Fantasy 3. I've had a couple people actually tell me how good Final Fantasy 3 is because of the job system and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to start in Final Fantasy 3 and see how it transpires and how it starts and stuff like that. And how to play through it, you know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. After that, though, there's also the fact that, let's see, what else do I want to go ahead and talk about? There's a lot of stuff that's been going on in my life. I just don't know if I should talk about it or not, because as of right now, it is within the realms of the unknown. I'm just hoping that by the end of the month, nothing changes within my schedule. Because I don't want my schedule to change. I prefer to be where I'm at right now. I prefer to stay in third shift. I prefer to keep myself where I'm at, where I can continue to do the stuff that I've always wanted to do and everything like that. It just works. But if something changes, it changes. You know, there's nothing you can change about it. And I have to be the responsible person and just say to myself, I have to accept what has been given to me. But at the same time, if something changes, that doesn't mean I'm going to like it. Like, let me put it this way. I can work in any situation. I can. But if I'm comfortable in a situation to where I don't want to be moved, don't move me. You know, if I'm comfortable in a situation, then you should leave me in that situation regardless. You know, because I'm easy to work with so long as you keep me within the realms of where I'm at. If I'm familiar in an area, just leave me there. If I want to be moved, I will let you know. They don't want to do that. They want to move everybody anywhere. Potentially they want everybody to be managers from the way they sound. It sounds like they want more new managers. They don't want the old manager. They want to get rid of them. They want to get new managers. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't want to be a manager though. Fuck manager position. That's a head-inducing fuck-up right there. It is. So, now that's not to say that I'm getting a manager position. No, which is a good thing. I don't want it. But there is other stuff that's going on that I personally don't like. And until they get it through their thick skulls, their empty, thick skulls, they have to realize they need a backup plan. They don't have a backup plan. They think that this plan is going to be perfect and they're sticking with it. They are not considering the fact that there could be a problem. There could be a flaw. There could be a goof up. And there could be a potential problem of where they're not getting the right associates. And until they figure that part out, their plan is flawed. And it will fail, and it's going to hurt us. It's going to hurt everybody. And until they figure that part out, it's going to hurt. But the problem is that they're cutting employees, but at the same time, they're cutting back key component characters needed to keep the store running. And to me, my personal opinion is you're never going to get rid of customer service. There's always going to be a need of customer service. You cannot have a robot fix every person's problem, because a customer is always going to need help. And that's why a physical person has to be there at all times. So to replace a person with a machine isn't going to work. I'm referring to, of course, the scan and go, the faster service and stuff like that, which from where I look at is not fast enough. It's not fast enough to compete with. I mean, it's good to know that we have the lanes available to check out people, so long as they use it. There are some people out there, people in their 60s and late 70s, who don't want to use it. They still need a person to check them out. They still need a cashier because they don't know how to use some of the stuff. Some do, but not every one of them do. In fact, there are some people out there, whenever I told them about this service and everything like that, they're looking at me like as if I'm a freaking insane person. Like, they look at me as if I'm crazy. I'm like, no, this is what they want to do. And they're like, well, what about cashiers? I'm like, there's still going to be a couple of cashiers, just not as many as people would like to have. And they're like, well, that's dumb. And I was like, that's what Walmart wants to do. That's what they want to do. It's like they're trying to compete with other people who are also doing it. I know that Amazon is one of the first people to actually have an actual physical store, and they're doing it this way. So in other words, every other store that is big enough and powerful enough, they want to do the same way to try to match up in terms of competitiveness. Now, people are using it just because it's an interesting ideal. They're not using it because it's convenient. They're not using it because it's saving them money. They're using it because it's a new thing and they want to see how well it works. There are a bunch of problems that they're suffering right now, and I'm sure some of that is going to be fixed within the next couple of years. And I say years because that's literally how long it's going to take before it gets fixed, is years. Personally, I don't mind using self-checkouts, so long as I don't have a lot of items in my buggy. I don't mind using self-checkouts. For me, self-checkouts is a good thing to have, especially if you're within the realm of 20 items or less. If you have over 50 items, that's where things can be a problem, because the self-checkouts don't have a bigger desk to where you can set them on there and stuff. But, it all depends. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm hoping that my schedule never changes. If it does change, it's not going to be until within the next few years. And that's if things work well. It's a matter of hopefully my dreams will come into play and we'll just see what happens. We never know what's going to happen. That's the important thing, is that we never know how things will affect us. So, at any rate, though, those are a couple things I wanted to go ahead and talk about. a bunch of updates, as well as some potential new video series that's coming up, as well as some updates going on within my life. Again, I didn't want to go into deep detail, but I guess I kind of did. But at the same time, it's a matter of like, hopefully I stay where I'm at, and that way it doesn't interfere within Twitch, much less video making, and we'll just see what happens. We'll see. Hopefully, and I pray to God and hope that everything works out in the end, that things will be okay. So keep me in your thoughts. Just bear with us. You know, we never know what's going to happen, but we'll see how things go. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy these cross gaming video podcast videos, let me know in the comments below. Also too, whenever the video does come out, be sure to check out whatever video me and Delmar are going to be releasing in the future. And if you enjoyed this video series, what was your favorite part of the entire video podcast? Did you enjoy me talking about the personal stuff, or did you enjoy the individual updates as well as potential news that we've been getting? So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Take care, guys.